From Edinburgh to Eastbourne, the same scene. Friendliness, enthusiasm, optimism. A feeling among all groups of people that we can look for a new approach, a new hope in the new leader of the Conservative Party, Margaret Thatcher. There's no doubt about it. The enthusiasm for the new leader of the Conservative Party has been immediate and obvious. Why? What does she stand for? Well, she said this on television.
I believe I represent an attitude, an approach, and I believe that that approach is borne out by the development of my own life. Going to an ordinary state school, having no privileges at all, except perhaps the ones which count most. A good home background with parents who are very interested in their children and interested in them getting on. And that's what I see as the kind of conservative approach in which I believe. Being able, by your own efforts, to help your children to have a better chance than you did.
Hello, dear. Of course. Have you been across to see it, the House of Art? Did you enjoy it?
Margaret Thatcher developed this theme when she spoke to a meeting of small traders.
For the first 18 years of my life, I lived over the shop which my father owned and ran. That the job you do is fundamental to the future of Britain. Britain is not a place merely for big, large companies. It is a place where many private people have in the past and should in the future be able to show and develop their own initiative on behalf of the people. Has anyone got the Crossman Diary?
For Margaret Thatcher, her children and her family life are the cornerstones of her sort of conservative philosophy. She was asked whether the Conservative Party was narrowly based.
Well, of course we're not, because the kind of philosophy I've been outlining and beliefs that the ordinary person wants really to be independent, doesn't like being dependent on the state, doesn't admire a person who always goes along to say the state must look after me, whether I work or not. This is an attitude which goes all throughout society. All my ideas about it were formed before I was 17 or 18. I learned it from my father, I learned it from my surroundings. Just a little bit of personal pride and human dignity, the development of one's own personality. Make your own decisions. You'll find this every bit as much among people of lower income groups as you do among those of higher income groups. Anyway, the income groups have got all muddled up these days. It's an approach or an attitude to life, and I hate these labels. I really hate them. I simply don't understand why you can't look at a person quite apart from their social background for what they are, for what they can do, for what contributions they can make. And they make all kinds of different contributions. But if several of us went along to a cinema together from totally different backgrounds and sat there watching, you couldn't label us from looking at us, either from looking at us in appearance or from what we did. To me, I think... I see Britain as having an entirely, what you would call a middle-class approach. I call it a fundamentally conservative approach with a small c, because it's founded on belief in the dignity of the human personality and the right to let that develop, and the right to bring up your own children and look after them as you will, and a fundamental respect for the similar rights of others. And that really is what often people don't realize. They say rights of the individual, but those also take into account the rights of other individuals and families. And that kind of society cannot exist without a very well understood idea of law and order and above all self-discipline. But it's a clear picture, and it's much, much more appealing than the cold state, much more. And is not confined to the middle classes.
What is the situation that Margaret Thatcher finds after 1 year of socialist government? Labour have gone out of their way deliberately to make life more difficult for a lot of people. And when you look at who they are, you'll probably find that in one way or another, you and your family will be hit.
Small shops, local tradesmen, all those workers who don't belong to a union, the self-employed, farmers, small and family businesses, people living on income from their savings, and, of course, ratepayers, The Conservatives have been fighting hard for all these people. They've done more than just oppose the Labour government. They've also tried to do things, and they've succeeded. Just look. Do you have off-peak electricity? The Conservatives forced Labour to halve the increase. Do you pay rates? The Conservatives won special rates relief. Do you receive maintenance payments? The Conservatives won tax concessions for you. Are you a pensioner who goes out to work? The Conservatives forced Labour to relax the earnings rule so that pensioners can earn more without having their old age pension cut. If you work in a small business or in agriculture, the Conservatives have forced Labour to ease at least some of their tax penalties on your farm or your company. And if you're a disabled housewife, the Conservatives have won special benefits for you.
The difference between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party is simple. Labour nowadays see politics in terms of dogma. The Conservatives see politics in terms of people. And that's just what Margaret Thatcher has been saying in the last few weeks.
It is not only permissible, but praiseworthy to want to benefit your own family by your own efforts. We are a party for all the people, not for any limited group or class or faction. I believe that those who prosper themselves have a duty and responsibility to help others. Somehow, I feel there have been times when we have lost our vision for the future.
It's just about 3 weeks since I was made leader of the Conservative Party. Since then, I've had over 18,000 letters from people all over the country and in all walks of life. They've told of the real problems people face. In some cases, one thing dominates, like wanting to transfer from one council house to another one in a different area, or of being unable to sell a home that's too expensive to keep up, or of trying to get a son or daughter into a particular school, or of trying to make ends meet in a world where prices and rates are rising as fast as they are today. But two general points have come through strongly in many of these letters. First, people feel that as a nation, we're not living up to the best in our character. The same spirit that made us a great nation is still there, but somehow we're not using it, except in emergencies. And then, people want a clear lead on what to do, and then to get on with the job of doing it. This lead can't come from a government like the present one, where the ministers seem to spend their time quarrelling openly among themselves. I want to lead the people of this country away from the quicksands of socialism. Politicians can't please everyone. That would be impossible. But it is our task to try to do justice to everyone. I've found a wealth of enthusiasm and goodwill, more than enough to restore our confidence. Confidence in our capacity to solve our problems. Confidence to restore Britain to her place as a proud nation in the councils of the world.
Margaret Thatcher, the new leader of the Conservative Party. In Glasgow last week, she was asked how she felt about her new job.
Well, I've been so busy that I haven't had really much time to think about it. After all, I know I'm still only me, and so do my family. But I'm very much aware of the responsibilities, and a little bit apprehensive. Who wouldn't be, when you think of the names that I follow? You mentioned Disraeli. To follow Churchill, Macmillan, Alec Douglas-Hume, and Ted Heath. Well, it is a tremendous responsibility, and naturally I wish to do my best, and again to be the first woman at it is quite a responsibility. But after all, you know, the men haven't made such a success of it all the time. So, to yesterday's men, tomorrow's woman says hello.